Hello and welcome back to more of Manufactoria 2022. Last time we discovered this new section where the dots, instead of just being blue and red, represented monetary values of 10 and 5 cents, which gave different meanings to the challenges. So we got through the Cashiero bot, in which you had to subtract 15 cents from the input, and we will continue on here with First Auto Bank. So let's see. Marcus had argued for some time that bankers were widely disliked, seen as greedy, lazy, bank holidays, and any other number of crude stereotypes. What's worse, human error on their part had led to multiple recent financial crises. Of course, we both knew who'd never suffer from human error: robots. It was robots. Oh, let's see. Okay, so we have different numbers in this one, but same idea. Red and blue, at least $5. Subtract 3 from robots type, then produce them. So I'm trying to think this through. Okay, so there's a thing called the Chicken McNugget theorem in math, which is like if you go to McDonald's and you can buy 10 Chicken McNuggets or 7 Chicken McNuggets, what's the highest number of Chicken McNuggets you can't buy? And if they're relatively prime, and you have m and n as inputs, it's m times n minus m minus n. So we can make anything that's 6 minus 3 minus 2 higher than that. So we can't make 1, but we can make 2 or 3 or 4 or anything higher. So that's not going to be an issue. So this is interesting because if we have a red, we can just remove a red, and otherwise we'll need to remove 3 blues and replace it with a red. So I think we can see it here. Like if you have something like this, you can just subtract the red. Oh, that's a nice UI that it adds it up for you. But if you had no reds, you'll need to get rid of 3 blues and replace it with a single red to go from 6 to 3. So I think the general idea, we can still have a marker. But I think what I'm going to do is check if I have any reds. And if I do, then I just keep replacing everything until I get to the end. So let me do this and then I'll explain it. So the idea here is if I see a red, then I can just delete it and go to the end, and because reds are 3, that will subtract 3. If I have only blues, I will come down this way, I guess, instead, and then I'll do something that deletes 3 blues. So at this point, I know I don't have any reds, so I should just be able to do 3 blues in a row, and if there are 3 blues, we'll be done. I guess I don't even need to check for green at this point. It's either you get to the end or you see 3 blues. So where's my... Oh, I don't need to reject anything. Okay, so I think this should just work. So I'll give some examples. If we have 2 blues, a red, and 2 blues, this goes through, marks the end of the tape, checks if there's any red. If there is, that red was worth 3, so it subtracts it. Cycles through everything else. And then once it gets to the end, it knows we're done. So it just deletes a single red. However, if there are all blues, then we go and we just cycle through all the blues a bunch until we get to the end. And this way we've confirmed that there's all blues. And at that point we just go through the 3 blues, and it doesn't like that. Oh, I need to add a red. So this subtracts 3 blues, which subtracts 6. But I only need to subtract 3. So goes, confirms there's only blues. Right now there's 6 blues. It deletes 3 of them and adds a red. So it goes from 6 blues to 3 blues. It deletes 3 blues, which is minus 6. Add 3 to get minus 3. So I think this should work. Nice. People complained our banker bot's repeated historic inequities and discriminated against minorities. It sounded hard to debug, so I just set the bots up so they'd loan to anyone, whatever their ability to repay. Would that cause issues later? Maybe, but later was a long time away. Yeah, this this game's pretty good with the sarcasm. Right, like, technology makes things more efficient. It doesn't necessarily, as they say, bots do what you tell them to do, not necessarily the right thing. I can definitely just make this a little bit more compact, which I don't normally bother with, but can I, if I rotate this, right? Do that instead and delete these. Move this up. And this whole thing's just a little bit more space conscious. And actually we can save another row if we just have our starting bot here. Oh. Yep. That's nice. And then what is this? Oh, so if you're going for certain achievements, you might have different solutions that you can load. That's cool that it lets you keep track of all that. I think this is good, though. Did I get no achievements for that? Really? I guess cycling through all the blues is maybe slow. Interesting. Okay. Let's continue on. The Accountatron. Maybe this is supposed to be a high complexity one, so let's see what this is. I've begun to suspect that something was strange with our finances. We are selling more robots and more expensive models than ever before, but our profits hadn't gone up proportionally. Without telling Marcus, just in case, I set about building an accountant robot to investigate the problem. This is large, which is scary, because that usually means very complicated. Accept robots that enter with equal cents on either side of the coin, of the equal sign. Junk the rest. Okay, so we see here we have 10 and 5 equals 5, 5, 5. Okay. So I think if I see something on the left, I can drop it, and then I can just drop the same amount on the right. So if I see like a 5, then I can drop a 5 on the right, or I can subtract from 10 to 5. And same with a 10. I can either drop 2 5s or a 10. Okay, so we'll start at the top here. Let's see, if we... Let's write a yellow one, actually, to make sure that we know where the end is. And then we'll filter from blue, red, or equals. So if it's on the red side, we know we need to subtract 10. putting the robot when I need to do a conveyor belt. So on the red side, we just drop it, we subtract 10. So then we cycle through everything until we get to the equals. We can write that equals back in, and then we'll need to subtract 10. So if we see a red, we've subtracted it. We can just go back up. And we'll need to cycle through things at some point, so I haven't done that portion yet. If we see a blue, we've subtracted that, but we need to subtract 5 more because a blue is only worth 5, and we subtracted 10 up here. So if we see another blue, we can just subtract from there. But if we see a red, we should only subtract 5. So we should replace it with a blue instead. So this has subtracted 10, and we've subtracted 10 over here. And then we need to cycle until we get to the end, which is a yellow. So we do our cycler, get to the end, rewrite the yellow, and that should be okay on that side. So let's give it a test. So this, we'll say something like this. So this is 20 equals 20. So we run, we subtract a red, so we're down 10 on the left side. Cycle through. We want to be down 10 on the right side. So we see a blue, that's down 5. See a red. If we subtract that, we're down 15, so we need to add another blue. And then we continue to cycle through and get back to 10 equals 10. And this yellow, even though it has the minus sign, that doesn't mean anything. So we run through again and subtract 10 and 10, this time going through 2 blues. Come through, read the minus. At this point we drop through there, which indicates that it is equal. So this will be our successful case and then we basically need to do the same thing on this side. Go until we see a green. So cycle through our readers. And this needs to be green, not yellow at that point. And then we've subtracted 5, so we go our first reader. If we see 5, we're just done. And can continue back to the start. And if we see red, that's subtracted 10, so we need to add 5 back to it. And then we also need to cycle through until we get to the end. So we can add another one of these things until we see a yellow. I guess I could have copied it from there. We see a yellow, and then we can write a yellow. And this should allow us to test the opposite. So if it's blue, 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 blue equals red, red. So we've read 5, subtracted it. cycle through until we get to the middle. At the middle. Two things I missed are, one, I need to mark the green again so that we don't lose track, and I also did this blue the wrong way. So we've subtracted 5. Oh, what am I doing? That doesn't go back. That blue just needs conveyor belts to match up with everything else. So, yeah, and after this we have 15 equals 15. We come through here, we have 10 equals 10. We come through, we have 5 equals 5. We have nothing equals nothing, and we succeed. So everything else just needs to have fires, I think. And this should do it. You know, we either subtract 10 or 5 from the start, and then subtract 10 or 5 from the second part. Ah. Okay. So the one that failed was just green-red. So what we need to do here is just, because if there's a green, I assumed that it would be done, but that is not always the case. So I just need to confirm that we are actually done, which I should be able to do with this, I believe. So if there's anything after the green, it will get thrown into a fire. Nice. That was not as bad as I feared. Okay, the mechanical CPA had crunched the numbers and the answer was simple. We'd been sinking a third of our revenue into wildly experimental new robot prototypes, another third into maintaining and expanding our mega factory, and a good chunk of the rest into executive compensation. I breathed a sigh of relief. Everything seemed in order to me. So, yeah, you know, as the executive, getting all that executive compensation seems good. Nice. Ooh, economist. Do I want to do that right now? You know, I'm gonna save this challenge for a bit. I'm gonna do some of the simpler ones, and then I'll work up to this, I think. So let's do money changer. Let's see, keeping track of exchange rates was such an archaic hassle. How many Australian dollars to the Turkish lira? How many bitcoins to the DigiCash buck? It was about time to junk the whole thing. In my opinion, everyone could just use one currency and like it. But until then, Marcus suggested we could at least have robots do the conversions for us. So, use as few 5s and 10s as possible to produce the cents that the robot enters with. Well, as few 5 and 10s as possible just means replace any 2 blues with a red. So, that seems fairly simple. So if we have a red, we can just replace it with another red because we don't have to worry about it. If we have a blue, we need to, again, any reds don't matter. If we get a second blue, we can do a red. And then repeat the process, I guess. So we can do one of those cycler things where we just move all the reds and blues to the back. And if it's, once we get to green, we'll come through again. And the main question is, what to do if we hit greens earlier. I think if we hit a green here, that means we just have all reds at that point and we can succeed. If we have a green here, we deleted one of the blues, so we'll need to add that back in and then drop it. And I think that should be everything. Let's find out. Excellent. We'd had to update our money changer bots already. Economic disruption caused by widespread automation had caused a sharp burst of inflation, rendering the old coinage worth less than the metal it was made of. The government had introduced new $2 and $3 coins in response. I just couldn't wait until we were done with this nonsense for good. So, let's see. Economic disruption caused a burst of inflation. I'm trying to think if that makes sense economically, but I don't know. Yeah, so basically the idea is if we have 2 blues, we want to change it into a red. So we check for 1 blue, 2 blue, and then change that into a red. If we have no blues, that's this branch, and we just drop it. And if we have 1 blue, we know we're at the end, but we have to write that blue back in. So, pretty good. Let's try making a mint. Control of the money supply was a hotly contested and controversial issue. Marcus had been sending lobbyists to the Capitol to argue about it for years, and had recently been rewarded with loosened regulations that would let us run our own personal money printer. Whatever the right policy was, I was sure our robots would find it. You're just printing money now. Okay. Okay. Produce money equal to the number of yellows on the tape of the robot enters with. Oh. Okay. So we're turning yellows into numbers. Okay. So it doesn't have to be like the fewest number. So I think if we just turn every 2 yellows we see into a blue, and then if we get to the end and have a yellow left over, we turn that into a green, or into a red. Like, these 2 would be blue, these 2 would be blue, these 3 would be red, something like that. We'd of course have to check if we're at the end in some way, but I'm sure I can figure that out. So I'm wondering if the easiest thing to do would just be to have like an even or odd checker. So okay, so let's say we see a yellow, and then we see another yellow. We can replace that with a blue. And if we're at the end, this means we've replaced an even number of yellows. So that's fine. And the only question is if we see a green, then we have 1 yellow we haven't dealt with. However, in that case, it should be the case that we have a blue and filtering based on that. So we'll delete one of the blues and instead have a red. to represent that we have 3 and not 2. So if that wasn't clear, I will show you if there's 3 yellows. All right, well, I'll show you if there's 4 yellows, it replaces the first 2 yellows with a 2, and then it replaces the next 2 yellows with a 2 here, and then it knows we're done and just drops it in. However, if there's an odd number of yellows, it can still replace every 2 with a blue, but we will have 1 left over. And once we determine that 1 is left over, which will be like here, we've seen 4 and we have 1 more, so we need to make it into 5. So we go and we subtract 2 and add 3 because we were 1 short. So I think yep, this was fairly simple. The biggest problem for the Mint project was determining whose faces would be on the bills. For his great work, Marcus got to be on the $20 bill, and Evan very politely requested a spot on the 10. For myself, well, what can I say? When I'm looking at a sheaf of freshly printed $1,000 bills, it's nice to see my own face looking back. Nice. This can definitely just get a little bit more condensed. And we will nicey nice. Yeah, I mean, I've just got 10 things here. I don't know, maybe replacing like multiple blues with, or 3 yellows with reds would be more efficient, but I'm happy with it, so I am going to move on from here. All right, and again, a little surprised that didn't get any achievements, but that is okay. Let's finish out this episode with major minors. Let's see, digital cryptocurrencies were all the rage lately. Marcus told me some companies had seen their share prices triple just by adding crypto to their names. It took a lot of computational power to mine cryptocurrencies, but we had a lot of very smart robots. It was a match made in e-heaven. Yeah, a lot of crypto stuff is like the .com stuff. Back when people would just pay a bunch for any company that had .com in it. It's like, your company has to do something. You can't just say you're using new tech without explaining how that new tech actually makes money. Okay, use as few 2 and 3s as possible to produce the dollar that the robot enters with. Is this... How is this different from Money Changer? Money Changer was cents. Use as few 5 and 10s to produce the cents that the robot enters with. Use as few... Oh, so it's 2 and 3s instead of 5s and 10s. Okay. So it's a little different. But not much. Because a 2 is just a 2, so 1 blue is 1 blue, 2 blues are 2 blues, but 3 blues are now red. It's 3 blues are now 2 red instead of 2 blues being 1 red. So it should be a very similar pattern. Uh, 3 and 5. Yeah, there's never going to be a reason to not keep the reds we have. So we'll do that. we might as well always be checking for greens. And at this point we've read 3 blues, so we can add in 2 reds. Have another filter to cycle through to the beginning again. And at this point, all right, this should be very similar to the other one. So let's just see if this works. Oh, no, it did not. So 2. I need to replace the things that I've read. So this is 1 blue and this is 2 blues. So I will just do that in the simplest possible way. Being very direct with it. Awesome. After the 3rd time the factory's power went out, I went asking questions. It turned out that our busy crypto mining bots are using more power than the rest of the factory combined. They were so sad when I shut them down. We'll have the power problem fixed soon, they promised. So smart, but so blinded by their own self-interest. Let's see. Yeah, so just to show you how this works. So if we have 6 blues, we go and we see 1 blue, 2 blues, 3 blues, and replace it with 2 reds. We start with 6 blues, we get rid of 3, and now we have 3 blues and 2 reds, and we have to cycle through to the start again. And then we do the same thing. We get rid of 1, 2, 3 blues until we're just reds. And then if we have only reds, we can just drop it in this chute. If we have 1 extra blue, we replace the 3 blues with 2 reds. So we have 2 reds and 1 blue. And that 1 blue will come through here, but then we won't see any more blues. So it can just drop in here after we add that blue we deleted. And same with the 2 blues. We read 2 blues and then write 2 blues. So this was a fairly productive episode. Did a bunch of challenges. However, the economist, which I plan to tackle next time, might be more challenging since it's supposed to be very high complexity. So I look forward to doing that. But in the meantime, hope you all have a great day.